I couldn't stand the thought of being stuck with a woman whose big pregnant belly made me feel like I'd have to raise the child alone. The sight of her at 9 months pregnant filled me with disgust. A cruel smile spread across his face as he looked forward to this day. Knowing this would happen, I quickly went to my room and came back with some papers. I handed the divorce papers to Brian. He looked shocked and said, "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" I replied, "This was your idea. Now sign it quickly. I'll submit it tomorrow." His face turned red with anger as my words hit him hard. "Watch closely," I said. "I'll make you regret how you've treated me." My name is Linda. I'm a 27-year-old housewife. Until 3 years ago, I worked at a mobile company where I met Brian, my boss. I was 25 then, and it didn't take long for us to fall in love and get married. Brian, who is 4 years older than me, was very dependable, especially when he taught me my job. As a newcomer who didn't know much, I was very grateful for his help. We became friends and often went out for dinner. When he asked me out, I was overjoyed because I had never dated anyone before. It's a bit embarrassing, but I was more interested in cartoon characters than real men. However, seeing my friends get married one by one, I felt pressured. When I fell in love with Brian, I secretly promised myself that he would be my first and last love. When I started dating Brian, and we got married a year later, I was thrilled. Brian was handsome and popular with our female coworkers. I was proud to be his wife, and many congratulated us, saying things like, "Congratulations," or "I'm jealous, but wish you happiness." I was overjoyed and couldn't imagine what lay ahead for us. The day after we registered our marriage, Brian dropped a bombshell. "You're married to me now, so you'll quit your job, right?" "I told them yesterday," he said. I was shocked because he had never mentioned this before. "But this is so sudden," I replied. "I had taken my job based on my father's recommendation, and leaving without notice wouldn't be right." I wanted to explain this, but Brian's eyes silently pressured me, warning me not to argue. "I should have told you, but it's done. Starting tomorrow, you don't need to go to work. I'll handle the handover," Brian declared. His words were firm, and I felt dizzy from the abrupt change. Since Brian had been my boss at work, I couldn't oppose him. I left my job without a proper farewell, determined to make our marriage work. Brian wanted me to focus on household chores, and I wanted to meet his expectations. I worked hard at home, preparing meals and focusing on Brian's favorites, even though he never commented on the taste. I longed for a word of appreciation, especially after quitting my job and losing the recognition I used to get. One day, I asked, "Is my jacket clean? I have an important meeting tomorrow." Brian replied, "Yes, of course," showing a domineering side with old-fashioned views. I reminded myself how fortunate I was to have married him and tried to meet his expectations. With no personal income, I relied on Brian completely. Our relationship often felt more like that of an employer and housemaid than husband and wife, but our life was generally smooth. However, one day I fell ill and couldn't get out of bed. Feeling lethargic, I thought I would catch up on housework the next day. Brian entered the bedroom angrily and asked, "What are you doing? Get up and make some food," and he kicked the blanket off me. "I'm sorry, I'm feeling unwell," I said. "Can you manage something for yourself today?" I hoped he would understand, but instead, Brian frowned and said, "You don't work, yet you're lying down just because you feel a bit sick? Pathetic." In disbelief, I got out of bed. It was unimaginable that he would demand housework from his sick wife. I had never thought he would be like this before we married. Maybe it was my fault for not seeing it, but it was too much. I found myself doing chores with tears streaming down my face. Several days passed, and my health didn't improve. Then I realized I had missed my period. Panicking, I rushed to the drugstore and bought a pregnancy test. It was positive. Overjoyed, I cried tears of happiness and decided to share the news with Brian when he got home. The day he returned home after midnight was the day I chose to tell him. However, when he entered, The smell of alcohol made me nauseous. His face was flushed, and he staggered as he walked. It was surprising how much he had drunk, especially without telling me. Even though I had prepared dinner, I wanted to share the pregnancy news quickly. I haven't been to the doctor yet, so it's not confirmed, I began, eager to share our happiness. But Brian's face darkened. A child? What have you done? He said in a tone unlike anything I'd heard before. I don't want a child. Damn, this is the worst. If you're going to have it, raise it yourself. His harsh words shocked me. He rudely stripped off his clothes and headed to the bathroom. It was unbelievable. I couldn't understand why he would make such irresponsible comments about our baby instead of being happy. The joy I felt moments ago was replaced with deep sorrow. Why would he say such things? He had never mentioned not wanting children before. We hadn't even been using contraception, so I naturally thought we both wanted kids. As I ironed Brian's jacket and was about to take his shirt to the washroom, I felt a deep sadness. I noticed something else. What's this? A piece of paper had fallen out of Brian's dress shirt pocket. It was a receipt. At first, I thought it was from his gathering tonight and almost threw it away. But then I saw the name of the place. Is this a motel? My hand trembled as I realized it was indeed a motel receipt. The shock of this discovery hit me hard. Why would Brian do this? Isn't marriage supposed to be between two people who love each other? We've only been married for just over a year. How could this happen? I had been lost in imaginary romances for years, never really being in a real relationship. I couldn't immediately accept this harsh reality. However, the idea of Brian cheating began to make sense. Had he been using me from the start of our marriage? Was he genuinely in love with someone else while I was just a convenient servant? These doubts swirled in my mind. Was that why he reacted so harshly when he learned of my pregnancy? As I grappled with these thoughts, I felt sick and convinced that something was wrong. Maybe the reason he made me leave my job was that his mistress worked there. Everything started to make sense, as if he married me for stability and not love. The line between reality and my imagination blurred, but there was no denying the heartless words he had thrown at me after learning about my pregnancy. That day, I decided to gather evidence of Brian's infidelity. From then on, his cold behavior towards me was undeniable. It was as if he couldn't forgive me for becoming pregnant. Despite knowing that I was suffering from morning sickness, he would deliberately eat smelly foods near me and nitpick my housework, forcing me to redo tasks. My pregnant body had to endure a lot, and my heart was heavy. Despite this, I continued to investigate his affair. Brian never parted with his cell phone, even taking it to the bathroom, making it impossible for me to sneak a peek. When I secretly entered Brian's room, it was neat and tidy with nothing incriminating in sight. He was meticulous at work, and his desk was always in perfect order. I realized it would be challenging to catch him off guard directly. I frequently checked Brian's pockets for possible evidence, like receipts, but my investigation was proving difficult. The thought of hiring a detective crossed my mind, but I didn't have the money for it. I was deep in thought about my situation when I got an unexpected phone call from my father. He rarely called, so I was surprised. "Hello, it's me, your dad. How are you?" he asked. Considering his busy schedule, I was curious. "Dad, what's going on? Aren't you busy with work?" "My employees have been doing well, so I'm not that busy," he explained. My father, the CEO of a company in England, had always been a workaholic. I didn't have many childhood memories of playing with him, but I respected his dedication to his job. His unexpected call left me curious about the purpose. "So, what's happening?" I asked, waiting for his response. He then revealed a shocking truth. "Is that really true?" I asked in disbelief. "Yes, he's not the type to lie. I want you to believe me," my father reassured me. Initially in shock and unable to respond, as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, I felt a sense of relief. "Thank you, Dad. I'll do my best," I told him with gratitude before hanging up. My research was finally paying off, and I couldn't help but feel elated. However, the newfound knowledge also stirred up feelings of anger and frustration due to the ongoing tension between Brian and me. Brian continued to be distant even though I was pregnant. Each time he acted this way, I harbored a deep hatred towards him. Months passed, and our relationship remained strained. Eventually, an event occurred that shattered our life. At 9 months pregnant, I was always cautious around Brian, living in constant apprehension. I tried to avoid crossing paths with him, leading a quiet and stifled life. One day, I served dinner as usual. When Brian returned home, we sat at the dining table. As I quietly ate, Brian suddenly slammed his fork down. "What is this? It's tasteless," he exclaimed, throwing the food I had prepared onto the floor. Baffled by his outburst, I tried to comprehend the situation. The anger at having the meal I had cooked discarded before me began to well up inside. "I've been contemplating this for some time, but recently you've been complaining about the taste of the meals I prepare," Brian criticized. While it was true that since becoming pregnant, I had been using less seasoning to make healthier meals, this was only a temporary measure until the baby's birth. If he found the food bland, he could have simply added some salt himself. Why did he have to throw the meal on the floor? I was about to complain when Brian sneered and said hurtful words. "I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster. You'll have to raise the kid by yourself." His eyes were filled with malice, and a cruel smile spread across his face. I had always feared this day might come, even though I hoped for a different outcome. Quickly, I went to my room, grabbed a document, and returned to Brian. "Here are the divorce papers," I said, thrusting the documents in front of him. Brian's face twisted in shock as he stammered, "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden? It was your idea. Now sign it quickly." "I'll submit it tomorrow," I responded. I had been thinking about divorce since I started suspecting Brian's infidelity. But with a baby on the way, I wasn't sure if I could support myself. Now, I had a different plan in mind. My resolve seemed to provoke Brian. His face turned red with anger. "Just watch. I will make you regret every moment you looked down on me and controlled me. Do you think you can survive without me? You have a baby to care for, and you'll regret it," he said. I stayed determined and unshaken. "I'll be fine. Don't worry about me," I assured him. Irritated by my determination, he snatched the divorce papers and began to fill them out. "Here you go. If this is what you wanted, it's yours," he said. "Thank you," I responded. Brian probably didn't think I would actually submit the divorce papers, but the next day, I promptly did and left the house. I knew he would be surprised when he returned from work to find out. I moved to my parents' home because my father had returned to the United States from England and suggested I stay with them. It was the right decision at the time as I was fed up with my life with Brian. I was deeply thankful to my father. I received 5 calls from Brian on the day I left, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, he stopped calling. It became clear that I meant very little to Brian. He was probably content with his mistress and might even remarry soon. I decided to move on from Brian. 5 months passed, and I had a baby who was born safely. I was now living happily with my parents and the baby. While I was enjoying this peaceful life, Brian called again. I ignored his calls at first, but after several persistent attempts, I finally answered. "Hello, what do you want now?" I asked, tired of his tone. "Hey, what's going on? Why were you on that show, and since when were you the daughter of a CEO with millions of dollars?" Brian's voice was full of surprise and anger. Brian had seen a TV show that aired after I returned to my family home. I had received a request from a TV station because of my father's role as the CEO of a global tech company. The show featured our family's lavish lifestyle. During the interview, they mentioned our family's wealth, estimating it to be around $20 million. I never thought Brian would see that show, but TV has a way of reaching people. "Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you that I have assets worth $38 million from an inheritance." That's why I was able to divorce you, I said. My father had informed me about the inheritance, which gave me the confidence to live comfortably even after divorcing Brian. Brian was furious. What? That sturdy? Why didn't you tell me about this before? Half of it is mine, right? Give me the money now. I calmly responded, just as I thought. After seeing the show, all you care about is getting money from me. Gifts from parents are not included in the property split. And are you forgetting your own wrongdoings? Brian was puzzled and asked, What are you talking about? I'm tired of your anger, Brian. You called me yourself. You can't blame me for what you did. You cheated, didn't you? With your new wife, who is a junior from your company. You started dating her even before our marriage. Brian was clearly shocked by the information I had. I finally had the upper hand. Did you think I wouldn't find out? My father has many contacts in your company, and one of them told me about your affair. I've never mentioned it, but I'll be demanding child support, I declared. Brian, still in denial, protested, Stop kidding. Why should I? I pay child support because of you? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off with household chores. It's all your fault. Brian blamed me without apologizing for his own mistakes. I couldn't believe I was ever married to someone so lacking in common sense. Leaving him was definitely the right decision. Brian, I'm broke. My wife spent all the money I earned, and now I'm drowned in debt, he said pitifully. His plea fell on deaf ears. I went from anger to sheer disbelief. I never wanted to deal with such an unreasonable person again. What are you talking about? Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? I never want to deal with you again. I'll have my lawyer handle the matter of child support. Never call me again, and you will not see the child anymore. Goodbye. I quickly hung up the phone and blocked his number. I took a deep breath, feeling relieved. It's over now, right? No more calls from Brian, I thought. Just then, I heard my baby crying from the other room and rushed to soothe him. It turned out Brian started paying child support every month. According to a former colleague, Brian said his new wife was a big spender, and he had to cover their expenses with debts. Because of this, Brian had tried to get a share of my inheritance by calling me. However, he didn't get a penny from me and now had expenses greater than his income. He was struggling, either because things were going badly or he couldn't stand being looked down upon by his colleagues. He even started job hunting only after leaving his current company, forcing him into a life of poverty. Hearing this from a colleague didn't move me at all. I thought he deserved all the hardships. The harsh words and cold behavior he showed me will never fade from my memory. I hope he gets what he deserves. On the other hand, I'm enjoying parenthood with my parents. I think I'll lead a comfortable life without financial worries. Since my father mentioned passing on the company to me, I'm all geared up to work. After all, I am my hardworking father's daughter.